Today we're sitting down with Nikki Bostwick, founder and editor-in-chief of the Fullest, creator of your new plant-based elixir desirable, the Fullest Saffron Latte, host of the Morning Matcha podcast, and founder of Laguna Beach Living, mama and wife to boot. Granted, there isn't enough time in one podcast episode to cover the aforementioned list, but we did have an hour together. An hour in which Nikki shares, through her own pain and mishaps, the life and love that she lives and gives. Wellness is a shared meal, even when that plate doesn't look like the greenest thing within a 5-mile radius. It's the person sitting across from you. The intentions surrounding your everyday breath, the spaces you allow, and the boundaries you draw. We touched on sacred commerce, bridging business and empathy, the energetics behind breastfeeding, and that wellness is all-encompassing, not just that with which you stock your pantry with. Political, societal, environmental, it's all connected, though we do love a good green juice to top it off. Or in this case, the Fullest latest saffron latte. This is Fullest Self with Nikki Bostwick. A quick heads up, we're dealing with an overseas conversation here, so the audio may reflect this. Coming to you from Laguna Beach, California, and Amsterdam, the Netherlands.
I'm the founder and editor-in-chief of The Fullest. The Fullest came to be because I was really into health and wellness, or what I called health and wellness. Ever since I was young, I've always been really conscious of what I'm eating and how it affects the world, just because I had pets when I was younger, and so just eating meat was kind of the first thing that came to mind when all of a sudden I was like, wait, I have a pet chicken, but then also you're trying to feed me chicken. It doesn't make sense to me. But it wasn't like we had a lot of land or a farm or anything. It just so happened that my parents had got us a few chickens when I was younger, and then it kind of started from there. And I wasn't allowed to be a vegetarian. It was an intuitive thing for me at that time in my life. I'm not a vegetarian right now, but at that time in my life, I just really refused to eat any sort of animal meat. And it wasn't like cheese, it wasn't like vegan, but I just didn't want to eat anything that any sort of meat. And my parents were like, well, there's no such thing, because we come from a Persian family, and they were obviously my only source of information at the time. So I just thought that wasn't a thing until I went to school, and I was 11 or 12 when it came up with a friend of mine, and someone came and said, I'm vegetarian. And I said, what's that? And she explained it, and I went marching home, and I was like, excuse me.
You demanded.
There's a term for this, and that's what I am. So then I just kept telling them that that's what I am, and they try and sneak it in my food here and there. But for the majority, I was definitely vegetarian, and then I went off to college. I started learning about veganism. I became vegan. And I was really passionate about it. But what happened was there was just so much information that I just kept reading because I loved it so much. But then, and I didn't realize at the time, but I just kept going deeper and deeper into this space where everything became, I was afraid of eating. I started becoming afraid of eating certain things. It'd be like, oh, fruit is bad because it's high in sugar. Beans are bad because of this. And so I became raw, and then I wouldn't have fruit. And not that I was super anorexic or anything. I had struggled in my past, though, with an eating disorder. But this was more from what I thought to myself as a wellness perspective. I wanted to be healthy, and I wanted to only put things in my body that I thought were good for it. But I was just so strict and so extreme, and it got to a point where I just really wasn't feeling good, and my body was actually inflamed. I was just holding on to so much fat, even though I was just eating super clean. I didn't have a period. I wasn't fertile, and I went to go see a doctor, and he I really trusted him because he was kind of like the type of doctor you go to that would tell you don't eat fish because it has mercury, don't eat this. So I was like, oh, I really trust him. I really think he'll be able to help me. And he like did my blood work, and then he's like, I want you to go home and I just want you to eat everything and anything. I want you to eat like whatever you want. And I was like, but I don't want to eat that stuff. I don't want to eat meat. And he's like, you need to, like, your body is telling you that you need to. And he didn't really like teach me how to, because at the time I was still vegan and I felt like, oh my gosh, how am I just going to all of a sudden eat this? Like I can't. So I started with broths and stuff, but it was him giving me permission to just go for it. I don't know what it was. It was external, and I really had a lot to think about. Why did I get to the point where someone else had to give me permission to just like let go? But I started eating bread. I started eating broths. I started eating obviously things that I really source properly, not just any type of bread, but I started introducing a lot of grains and all sorts of things and at the same time I was like, I really need to share this information with the rest of the world. I started redefining what wellness was to me. So at that time I was like, there's just so much information out there, and I need to share with people that just because like paleo or vegan or raw, low sugar, whatever it is, works for someone, it doesn't work for everyone. And you can't just like all of a sudden try and combine all these diets into one, because then you just like don't eat anything and you're just kind of afraid. It's social suicide. Everyone thinks you're crazy around you. And I had no idea. I just thought I was a passionate girl that was into health and wellness and was into yoga. And this journey started for me where I started redefining what wellness meant to me and why I wanted to be well, and why I wanted to feel well. And that's when the Fullest started, because the Fullest is a digital and print publication. We have podcasts, we have the quarterly print magazine, we sell wellness products, but the content that we publish is really about just feeling your best self and living your best and fullest life. And that it includes eating well, but like if that includes going out and having pasta and hanging out with friends and that brings joy into your life, then that is being healthy. And that was really something that there's like a light bulb that went off in my head, because I didn't even know at the time how the restrictions, how unhappy they were really making me. And once I let go is actually when my body let go. My body let go of so much inflammation and so much, even though I was eating all the herbs and everything that was for inflammation and doing all these things, it was when I slowed down and just let go now I just feel the healthiest I've ever been in my life. So it's just kind of crazy, and I just wanted to share that with the rest of the world, which is how the Fullest started. And that's kind of what I do. The core of what I do is share information, yes, around all sorts of wellness topics, the newest trends but to politics, even trying to bring in like a holistic aspect, kind of like Marianne Williamson does, like spiritual politics. But ultimately it's just so people like feel good about themselves.
It becomes this abyss, literally, where it's gone from a mindset of wellness and abundance to you transition into this perspective of I can't eat anything anymore, and it's not what it's adding to my lifestyle, it's what it's taking away from my lifestyle. And you get so pigeonholed. And I'm actually interested in knowing, how did you transition back to getting your period? Because I have a few friends and they all really suffer with endometriosis, and they've gone to numerous doctors, and they're not so open to the holistic side of things, so it's still very traditional, pharmaceutical driven, and they're just turned away. There's no support. They're given all these like pills, quick fixes, and even there, when you mentioned that the advice you got was to just go home and eat whatever, and as someone who's young, or as anyone who may be struggling in this mindset, we are so rigid. It's like, well, I can't just go home and do this. You need help, and you need resources and proper education, because it's also still the physical body, and it's taxing on organs that haven't gone through eating like certain things.
Well, like I mentioned, I started with broths, like chicken broth, because I still can't do beef broth. It just, the taste, there's something about it. And I still get weirded out. I really do. But I just knew enough to know that I needed to start slow. Like, he didn't really tell me that, but it was almost like he just gave me permission, and I just went with my gut. And like, Guts and Glory is just such a great name for your podcast.
Thank you.
It's all about intuition and trusting your gut, and yes, using science, using the knowledge that we know. Google is amazing. It's just trying not to take it too far. So what I did was, the first thing I knew was, well, if I want to introduce this to my body, I need to introduce it through the broth, and then try and get healthy fats, right? So that's what the broth did for me, and it helped my gut, just the enzymes, like, learn more about, it's all information. Like, food is information. Right now I'm breastfeeding my son, and this is like going off on a tangent, but it's like any emotions I feel, anything that I go through, or any foods that I eat, he's learning about, his body is learning about the world around him through my breast milk. And it's just so incredible to watch. Like, whether it's super physical, like maybe I have some garlic and it makes him super gassy, to emotions, like maybe I'm super sad. Like right now I'm going through, like we talked about a second ago, my grandmother's passing, and it's like me learning to not get too emotional and out of control about it. Just, I need to like reel myself in and stay calm, because I don't want all that sadness to go to him.
Yeah.
So it's just like that with our own body. When I take in the broths or anything else I introduce, I just want to do it in a way where I'm being really kind to myself, and it wasn't necessarily what I was eating either. It was reprogramming, because I was basically had brainwashed myself into thinking everything was bad. So what I had to do, like before I ate it, was put a different energy in front of it. And I realized that, yes, food is really important, and it clears your mind and all sorts of things if you feed your body healthy things, but also it's the words and the thoughts. Those are the really important
The intention.
I think your mind, your intention, your mind is so powerful. So if you're like going to sit and try and eat a salad to be healthy, but you hate it so much, like it's really not going to do that much for you.
Yeah.
And I just think the same for the other stuff. It's like I could have eaten meat and taken in all this broth but been really angry. Well, I wouldn't have probably been in the place that I am now. But I had to just like work on really reprogramming what I had told myself before about the foods that were out there. And as far as birth control and fertility goes, my husband and I have been together since high school, so I had been on birth control actually even before I met him, because my mom is an amazing person and I love her so much, and she's done so many wonderful, obviously, things for me. But one thing was she really trusts Western medicine, even though we're from Iran and she has a lot of like holistic Eastern practices that we do. She really does previously trusted Western medicine a lot. So when I was younger, and I was like suffering from acne or or whatever it was. We were going on a trip, and like my sister's older, so she had been on the pill for her skin, and my mom's an esthetician, so she had learned Western practices for that. And she was just like, oh, like, you know, we're going to Hawaii. I had gotten my period, and she was like, you know, you can take birth control pill and you won't have your period for the trip if you don't want it. And that was not the best thing, best advice, but obviously at the time, again, she was my main source of information. So I took it, and I had been on birth control for a while, went off of it. And then once my now husband and I met, I was 16 and I went on it, and I was on it for a really long time. I would say up until I was like 23 years old. So how long is that? 7 years?
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, you know, even previously I'd been on it from when I was 12. So just almost 10 years, a really long time. And so my body, my hormones didn't really ever learn to regulate themselves. It was always an external thing that helped my body regulate its hormones. And then I was in college, and my school prescribed me Adderall because I was getting super, super tired. Like I couldn't, and I couldn't focus, but they tested me and I had ADHD, and I couldn't stay awake in a class if it was longer than 50 minutes. I would sleep every single time. Something was going on. I had like chronic fatigue, but when they gave me the Adderall, obviously that went away, but it was only a fix, and like an external fix again, because if I didn't take it, then it was actually even worse. It got worse than when I was just completely off of it. It was all just like external stimulation, external hormone regulation. Like I didn't know my body, but luckily, like as I had gotten more and more into a plant-based diet and learning about that, that is one thing that intuitively I was like, okay, you know, I don't want to be on medication, and I need to. That's why it also became super intense, because when I went off of Adderall and when I went off of my birth control, during that time, I thought that the more I learned, the more I would apply to myself. Because I didn't want to be on medication, I thought that I could heal myself that way, which, yes, it's true through food, but it wasn't, again, like I learned, it wasn't through restriction. It was through taking care of my mental health, taking care of myself in a different way, that ultimately helped me. But it took so much time. Again, I think I wasn't fertile because of I had my period, but when I went off of birth control, I didn't have my period. And my body was really confused. It was sporadic, and then it just completely went away. And I didn't have it for 9 months. And up until I went and saw my doctor finally, and he could tell, like, he knew without me saying that I didn't have my period, he could tell through my blood work. So it was really crazy. And basically I went and started eating more fats, but also I did do a lot of things like lymphatic drainage. I did IV therapy. I did acupuncture. I mean, I did a lot still, but I wasn't super rigid about it, and I wasn't super attached to my schedule. But I do believe that there are a lot of holistic practices that help. Like acupuncture, I think, is just incredible. If you don't like needles, you could do acupressure, but that really, really helps with hormones. And I think with lymphatic drainage, that is like an amazing combination. I don't think you need to go spend a bunch of money on IVs that you're most likely just going to pee out. I think I love IV therapy, but it's like there's liposomal vitamins that people can take that are just as effective as IV, and that you can just take at home. Really works very similarly. I don't know if you're familiar with liposomal vitamin C. No. Lipospheric. Yeah, so that is just like this little packet. I have some in my fridge, but it's lithospheric, and it's basically I'm not an expert, but the way I understand it is it's formulated in a way, it's like a little gel pack that the cell barrier in your body is more likely to consume it and easily just absorb it. So it's just easily absorbed, and the next best thing to having an IV. And they have vitamin C, they have vitamin B12, they have glutathione, and these are all sorts of things that they put in IVs. Like glutathione is a really incredible antioxidant, and it's really good for like if you're flying, to help rid radiation. Any sort of antioxidant is amazing, like from berries to glutathione, because like things like radiation or environmental things that we're exposed to, they create free radicals in our body, and they just keep going around and around and around. They circulate our body until we're able to let go and ground. So either like we have to put our feet in the grass, or our feet in the soil, or our feet in the sand. And most of the time, I mean, most people live in apartments.
When do we get the chance to do that
cities
these days?
Yeah, we don't. And like our earth is covered in concrete and asphalt. And I always am like, oh my gosh, our poor earth, it can't breathe because we've covered it. It's like wearing makeup and not washing your face ever. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
And so what we do is we get up, we take a shower. That's like the closest thing to grounding that we get to, probably. We put our shoes on and we go outside, and we never really take the time to put our feet or our hands on something that's from nature. So that's why like crystals are really good. I love crystals. I put crystals in my bathtub, and I'll like put my feet on the crystals to ground. I'm lucky I live near the ocean, but I don't always get to go. But I also have like a biomat where I can put lay on, so that helps with grounding as well, because it's made with crystals. And I think it's really great if you live in an urban setting, because you're more likely to do that than to. It's sad, but it's free to go outside and put your feet in the grass. But again, like our grass, Monsanto, it's like genetically modified.
Oh my God, yeah.
And so like when you put your feet in the grass, you don't even know, are there pesticides here? Because it's most likely that the streets are maintained by the city, and the city most likely uses pesticides. So it's like really sad.
Yeah, and they say that we let go of so many negative emotions and toxicities through our feet, and so just even imagining like that what's going on there, it's no.
I know,
the perfect,
but it's better than nothing, right?
Yeah. And this is a perfect transition, because in an interview you did with Zachara, I remember you said we're interested in self-care because that enables us to take care of other issues that are bigger than ourselves. And I think that really speaks to where we are right now, where it's like, yes, we can be doing all this work on ourselves, but it's time to look at the bigger picture. Instead of having our days like just revolve around like, oh my God, I'm obsessing over the next meal or like the next wellness trend. And so you deal within the wellness industry. However, that being said, the spectrum of wellness, which the Fullest covers, it's not only inclusive to the prosperity of the self, but also looks to, societal, environmental, political landscape as an integral part of our well-being, regardless of whether or not these factors actually affect us directly. And I want to know how this reflects upon your own life and the places and experiences from which your definition of wellness is currently taking root, like your go-tos, any thoughts or musings, or like even events.
Like I said, it's so important. Again, when I was redefining wellness for myself, I was like, why do I want to be well? What does that mean to me? Yes, I want to be happy, but ultimately I want to be a better citizen of this world, and I want to be involved, and I want to be aware. And a lot at the time, I was in this like wellness scene in LA where people were not paying attention and to politics. Sorry, that's my baby, if you can hear him. And I wasn't either. I wasn't really paying attention. And then Marianne ran for Congress at that time, and I was like, oh my gosh, this woman is incredible, and she's just this spiritual teacher that rolled up her sleeves and wants to bring in holistic politics, because we're ready for it, and we don't need to be, I mean, there's just so much I could go deep into that, but it just like there was a light bulb that went off, and I was like, I want to be aware, because at the time people were like, oh, politics, it's just way too much drama. There's this, there's that. I don't want to be involved in any sort of politics. I don't want to talk about it. I'm just going to ignore it. And that's how people were. But I was like, but that's everyday decisions are being made about us through our political system, through our democracy. And if we're into wellness and we care about the environmental toxins that we're being exposed to and all sorts of things, the way our democracy is run, then we have to be involved. But if we're how many calories or how much fat or all this stuff that's going on about ourselves, like self-care is great, but ultimately it's so that we can be there for each other, because we are all connected. And in my own life, I wasn't, like I said, really doing that. It just was this a light bulb. And so right now, the way that it is in my, like at the time, I just gotten married, but my husband and we've been together for so long, I could really take the time to pay attention to just myself, and have alone time, or really pay attention to all the stuff that's going on politically. And so I started a podcast. I started Morning Matcha because I wanted to learn about all sorts of things. It wasn't necessarily like who's running, which is really important, but even things like trans rights and what does transgender even mean? Like, I didn't know at the time. I had no idea. I mean, I knew what I could read, but it wasn't like I'd actually sat and spoken to someone who's transgender, because I didn't have anyone in my life that was transgender. And so I realized that I need to go out there and I need to meet these people, because I need to open my eyes in my world, because we usually just hang out with people that are most similar to us. So I hang out with like a wellness crowd, and then luckily, like I am Persian, so I have like an ethnic family that I'm around often. But if I wasn't even around them, then I'd have kind of no idea and no perspective of what it's like to be a refugee. Or, I mean, they're not, a couple of them are, they had to flee Iran, but otherwise, like most of them aren't. Like my immediate family isn't refugee, they chose to live here, but still, I mean, it's, these are things that are going on currently and they're important to stay on top of. And then I had a baby recently, and I was like, oh my gosh, obviously my whole world is consumed and revolves around my child and my family right now, because he's so young. But I really, really try and figure out ways to stay in the loop and stay up to date. And there are days where I have no idea what's going on at all, because all I do is just like sit, maybe and nurse, because that's all I can do. And find time to eat and maybe wash my face. But then there are times where I'll be like, okay, I really need to know what's going on, because that's going to affect me and my future and my family and the people that I love and the whole world in general. So I try, and luckily for me, like we just started doing political roundups on the Fullest. I have an incredible writer, Ann Lewis, who's starting to do it weekly. And so that's a way that I can stay on top of it, because she'll like kind of take in like what's going on and do a little, like spark notes on it. And I love, and I used to read every single day, that one site that I'm like blanking on right now. What is it called with an S? The Skim. I love The Skim. Have you heard of it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I used to like read that a lot, and then I listen to their audio clips as well, but again, like it's still a lot of content to take in, because we put out a lot of content. But I love The Skim. Like if I didn't have to try and stay on top of all the Fullest content, then I would also be consuming that. But sometimes I'm like, there's too much content, I don't want any content. And that's like the magazine too. I mean, again, if I'm talking about wellness to people, then I don't want them to be on the screen all the time. I want them to take time off. So that's why we have a print magazine, and that's why the print magazine doesn't have a bunch of advertising. I mean, our website, like, we barely do any advertising. We're super picky about people we partner with.
Oh, I love all of them.
If we do advertising, thank you. And we only partner with specific brands that we believe in, but we also will do it in a way where it's not bombarding you, because nowadays any website you go to, it's like, wait, is this an article? Like, when does the article start and when is the advertisement? I always accidentally click on advertisements, and I hate it because I feel like someone's going to steal my information and whatever. So I really try and be mindful of that, because, you know, all this screen time is affecting our brain, and it makes us have ADD more and more. And so I try and, like, with the magazine, with both, but with the print magazine, it's a way to unwind, not be on the screen, but still be able to take in timeless content that's centered around yourself, but also politically, it's all really timeless pieces that have been affecting us for a really long time, not super timely and up to date, like that's going on right this minute. Because I think that also, I don't know, it's kind of like designing your life and taking a moment to step back, and there are certain decisions you make that are going to affect you years from now. And I think that that's kind of how I try and go about our content too. I don't want to just take in 10-minute reads that are not going to really give much to perspective to me. I want like a full on read that takes in all sorts of perspectives, that'll help me shape my opinion on a specific topic. But yeah, that's how I bring it into my personal life.
That's a lot of moving factors. So
yeah.
How are you balancing motherhood and running a business and publication and your team, you're catering towards people, but also your child? How are you doing this?
It's a lot, and I still don't know. I mean, my husband is upstairs right now. I asked him to stay home from work for a little so that we can chat on the podcast. I have an assistant who's amazing, but I still really want to be hands-on with my child. And so I found someone who used to be a nanny, but also is super into wellness. And she used to be one of our amazing customers, actually, at the Fullest, because we used to have a pop-up shop. And we met and totally hit it off. And she helps me with him, but mainly she really helps me with the Fullest and like shipping out products that we sell, and like we do photo shoots. We do so much. And our team is really small for the amount of work that we do. It's crazy. And everyone just wears different hats. Like, we say we have defined roles, but we really don't. We just do everything. And they're amazing. We're like a family. So they're super understanding of how I am and this time period of my life. And you just kind of also like work around the clock and whenever you can. Like, for me, I say this a lot to people, but I mainly get things done in the middle of the night when everyone's asleep. And it's the only time I can really like actually focus. And it's amazing. I didn't really know that about myself until I had a kid, but it's nice because it's kind of like my own time, but I'm still, I'm working or communicating with my team. But that way, like, if they have questions, like, they know that I'll get to it by the evening or middle of the night or whatever. And that's the way it is. And then my husband is super helpful. I have an amazing family. But again, like, I don't know, like, I have to say no to a lot of things. I get invited to all sorts of incredible fun events, and I have to say no most of the time because I have to be really, really particular about the way my schedule is and what is important to me at this time period of my life. Like, maybe going and mingling with a bunch of other amazing women entrepreneurs would be nice and would be great for the Fullest, and great connections to make, but I don't really have that time right now, and I live an hour from LA, so driving there, I still do drive there for work, but it's like maybe a couple times a month, and before I do it like 3-4 times a week. So kind of slowing down, but also we're so lucky, like we live in a time where we can communicate electronically, and we don't necessarily, like you and I right now, I mean, we don't have to be in the same room, but we're having this amazing conversation, which is so cool. So I'm just really grateful to be a woman that has a career and gets to have a family, and that's because we live in this time period, which is crazy.
And when you're approaching decisions, do you look at it very technically, or is it more logic versus intuition, or how would you say your intuition plays into this?
Intuition is everything for my business. Like for me, I work intuitively. I don't know, I've just always kind of been like that too. But like I started with just content, and content, the way I would come up with what we were going to publish was, I used to like kind of dictate all the themes and everything. I only do that for the print magazine now, and I let people pitch a lot to us. But originally it was like just how I felt. Something would come up and I'd think about it, and I'd be like, you know what, this would be an amazing topic. And it was all intuitive thinking. It wasn't like, oh, this is a trend that's happening now, let's talk about that. That's like the last thing that I would ever think to publish, because I think if it comes from within, then it's powerful and you need to do something with it. And so the content is that way. The products that we sell online, same thing. If I don't personally use it or wouldn't use it, I would never, ever sell it. And so I like all the products, and there just happen to be products that I use, and that's why we sell it. Again, like right now we're actually formulating products that are going to be our own products, and that's all intuitive and because of my cultural background and stuff like that. So it's like what I did when my son was born, what I ate, what I like to drink, what I make myself, and then I'm making those products. So everything is intuition for me. And even like how we organize our office, how we ship things out. Like someone recently, I mean, I have a lot of wonderful resources. Like my family is really, like my husband's family, they have experience with people. It's one business that they're in. They just happen to know a lot of people that ship products out and have businesses where they work with third-party logistics. But he was like, oh, you know, I was setting up my new office, and my father-in-law was like, hey, like, do you want to meet with so-and-so to see the best way to set up an office so that it's more efficient for packing? And I was like, that would be a really good idea, but that doesn't work for me, because I need to know what works for me and for my business. And if I do, like, I'm the type of person that if I go and see the way someone else did it, then I wouldn't be able to come up with my own process and what's best for me, because then all of a sudden I'd be stuck on what worked for them, and it would actually even like mess it up for me. Whereas another person would be better off going to that warehouse and seeing that. But for me, I can't. It like messes with my brain.
It's like the actor has to stay in character.
Yeah, like I can't. I mean, I like to take advice, don't get me wrong, but there's certain things where it's like even other sites. I mean, I can't really go on very many sites because I just don't want to. I just want everything that we do to come from within, and I don't want to like. It's not copying, but just like not see what other people are doing.
But backtracking a little bit, you're a woman and you're second generation.
Yes.
Okay. And already wellness being this space that's so often downplayed to just be this stereotypical construct. What were the obstacles that you kind of first came up against when starting the Fullest? What backlashes were there, and especially within the sphere where everyone is so scared of public learning and actually making resistance, and people just tear you down straight away and they don't even give you a chance sometimes. How did you go about doing that?
I mean, there's definitely a lot of rejection in the beginning, and it doesn't make sense to me of why. I mean, we still have a lot of people who reject features and profiles on our site, and we're just like, why? It's free press, and, you know, we're not like this weird site. I mean, we're just trying to share information about what you're doing, but people would just say no. And at the time, I mean, it definitely got to me, but I would just like keep my head down and keep going and keep asking other people and coming up with other stories. But like, I had to learn not to be attached and not to take it personally, because I would really take it personally if someone said no. And I get it now. When I look back, I'm like, well, people just don't have time. I mean, there's just so much to do, and you can't say yes to everything, and maybe that's just what it was. But I didn't understand it at the time, and I would definitely get down on myself and be like, wait, like, is this not this not cool, or is it not what people want to hear, or whatever that may be. But again, because I was trusting my intuition and because it came from my heart, I knew that it needed to be out there. And I think that if I had been trying to follow a trend, I don't know if I would have had the strength to continue going. But it was like, I just knew I had to be, because of my own experience of what I'd gone through, like all sorts of things were telling me I had to do it. But yeah, I mean, you're trying to convince people that you have something important to say and that they should read it. But when there's so much information out on the web, like, why should they read your website? Like, what are you going to offer them? What are you benefiting them? And so I had to think about that too. Like, why should they come to our website? Why should they care about us over someone else? And I'm not very like competitive either. And so that was something I don't know, I had to figure out. I was like, well, just because there's other people doing something similar, or if there are other people doing something similar, it doesn't mean that I can't be in this place, because we can all exist here. And so I don't know, I just kept going, and we definitely get a lot of no's, and you just have to like have lots of backup plans, because if you create an editorial calendar where you're planning on someone to do something, even people fulfilling what they say that they're going to do, you know, you just have to have lots of content backed up to know, okay, or lots of ideas. It's like, okay, if that doesn't work, we'll do this. And there's been times where it just keeps not working, and you just have to figure it out. But yeah, it's hard when you start something. And again, that's why I was driving to LA all the time. For a little bit, I was living in LA, and then I moved back down to where I'm from, down in Orange County. But I was, you know, always gone, and I just worked really, really hard. And not that I don't work really hard right now, it's just a different type of working hard. I feel like we've been able to kind of establish ourselves in this space, but it's so difficult because the space is so noisy. I think there's a lot. But again, like, also Instagram is just so great, and it's changed a lot. But at that time, it was sorry, at that time, Instagram, and it still is, like, you get to meet such amazing people through it if you open yourself up and you allow that. There's so many people doing great things, and I would learn about people and all sorts of people that we were featuring just through Instagram. I would like search everything because I wanted, I mean, again, I did want content that was different. And I found people that no one was writing about or no one was thinking of. And I don't know how, I would just somehow fall upon their profiles, and then they weren't famous because I wasn't trying to go for like big names or anything. And we just kind of like grew together, I would say. So that was really cool too. What's possible.
I love Instagram because it's almost like if you're one that really kind of believes in manifestation, then it's almost an immediate tool where you get to see the result of that.
Yeah,
Even
it's really cool.
Yeah, but we're gonna pay homage to your team. How did you first go about the prospect of hiring and the potential candidates and just making sure that they were in alignment with the brand's ethos and purpose?
Well, they're all like friends, really. I mean, I just knew them. So I was a yoga instructor and I went to culinary school for raw food. After I had like gotten off all the medication, and during the time that I was still a crazy extremist, obviously, because who goes to raw food culinary school? But I was really into it and I loved it, and I met amazing people there, and we were in alignment with each other, and we were all super entrepreneurial. So I had found people that were really talented. So one of my like best friends, he is our art director, and he's amazing and he's so supportive. He's always believed in the Fullest. And so I was really lucky on that part. And then also I had to really believe in myself too, because for a period of time, in the beginning, my team was LA based, like all of them. And I would be the one driving up there a lot, but it was really taxing on me. And I was like, I want a team that's like willing to come to me as well, because I feel like this is not even, it just wasn't like reciprocating what I was putting in it as well. And so I ended up like finding a writer that was more local to my area. And she's amazing. I mean, we all really work remotely, but in the beginning, you kind of have to be with each other a lot because you kind of feed off each other and you do all sorts of things together and you brainstorm. So that was really cool because we all just like we are truly a family, and I consider them my best friends, and we tell each other everything. And it's such a different way of doing business, but it's definitely how I operate. I did a training with, I don't know, are you familiar with Cafe Gratitude?
Yeah.
I did a training with the owners of Cafe Gratitude because they're all about sacred commerce, and just using business as a path to awakening is literally what sacred commerce is. And I was like, that's what I want to do. I studied business in college. My dad's an entrepreneur. I always knew I wanted to be in business, but I knew that I wanted to be in business because I wanted to have a conscious company. And so I did their leadership training. I mean, we ended up getting so close. My husband did the training as well, and they ended up officiating our wedding. I just love them so much. And I learned so much from them about employees and how, again, like how they're a big part of your life. And these are the people that you spend most of your time with. And so you just kind of build the team that you want to hang out with too. Like, these are people you're going to hang out with. You better like them. You want to spend time with them. That's my Siberian Husky.
Oh,
sorry.
The baby and the dog, love it.
Yeah. I have a really bossy Siberian Husky who wants to eat all the time, and she lets us know it, so you can hear her because she's trying to get food right now. Aww. And but yeah, as far as my building the right team, sorry, let me see if I can close this door. That's how I did it. I was like, okay, I want to hang out with the people that I work with are people that I would want to hang out with all the time. But they also have to have a skill set that is different than mine because, again, I have ADHD. I don't take medication for it. All the herbs in the world might be able to help a little bit, but really I learned I have to be super strategic about the way I work. And I had to learn my working style. I was super young too when I started it. So I had to learn that it's okay that, because my dad, the way he works, that's the only example that I'd been around. He's very structured. Like, I know that at 7 a.m. my dad is at the gym. I know that definitely by 9, if not earlier, my dad is at his office, and I know that he's there all day long unless it's lunchtime. So it's like, I know where he is at all times because he kind of does the same routine. He's very routine oriented, and I love routines. I actually but I get into a routine and then I like to change it up, or things come up, especially being a mom now and like having to navigate so much. Like, I'm not doing the same thing all the time ever. And I used to be, that's why, like, I used to, when I was in my extreme phase, I would get up at like 4 a.m. so that I could go work out at 5 a.m. like every single day. And now it's like, literally don't remember the last time I worked out, which is terrible. But again, like, my lifestyle is I'm walking a lot or I'm standing a lot with my kids. So it's not like I need to go to the gym in order to get moving. Like, I'm always moving. I'm eating well, but I'm eating what I want. I eat pizza, I eat all this stuff, but none of it matters because I'm sourcing it properly. It makes me happy, and I don't eat too much of it because I don't feel restricted ever.
Yeah, you're just fluid.
So I just, with my team, it was just kind of like I had only seen him and his way of doing things, which again, I know so I thought that I was wrong. That's a part of the way I knew, like, I have to just do what works for me, and this works for me is just being this way. And then, so it was great because my team works remotely, and that works for us because we have a digital-based company. But also being together is really important. So we try and get together once or twice a month. So it is important that we are local so that for the main part, we can get together if we need to. So I went about just like hiring people that I like and that have the skill set and empowering them to make their own schedule. And like, if they have a midday meeting, or if they're going to take like a 3-hour lunch, or if they're going to work at the beach, like, do it. That's awesome. As long as we get what we need done, then I want people to be able to do whatever they want, whenever they want, because that's what I do. And that's why I wanted to be an entrepreneur. But I want my team to also feel like they get to design their own life too. So that's, I think, why we work so well together, because I want them to be able to feel free. Like, our managing editor, she's also a flight attendant, and she does both full time, which is pretty incredible. But like, being a full-time flight attendant means that she like takes a certain number of trips, but then those are like overnight. So because they're overnight trips, they end up making up for full-time. But she'll like literally be working on the Fullest while she's like at the hotel or something. But she also gets, because she's a flight attendant, she gets to fly for free anywhere in the world. So like, she can go anywhere and work from there, which is pretty cool. So it's fun.
Yeah, also just as a flight attendant, like, feeding into the content stuff, it's like, well, you can go anywhere. Who knows what stories she's picking up, the people she's meeting, and this just all comes back to like your team, and like you lift each other up. And I really, really love how business these days, it's being structured around, this is business, but it's dealing with people, and for people to be function at their most optimal, and therefore the business, like, everyone's different. Let them figure that out for themselves, and I love this.
Thank you. It's fun.
But you guys are also intentional in hosting offline opportunities along with the publication. How have you seen the Fullest impact the actual community?
So we did like book clubs, we have like markets, and it was really important to me that we did create that, for us to create an offline community. But that's one thing that, to be honest, we're just not good at. Like, I really try, and I still just, that's something I don't want to give up, but it's just a struggle for us, because on one hand, I feel like there's so many people that are enthusiastic about the brand, that want to be part of it, and are excited, but people are busy, and I don't know, it's just hard to like get out of your house. I think now that you can Postmates everything and watch everything on Netflix, and it's like, when was the last time someone went to a movie theater? Like, when was the last time we like left our house and went to an event? And again, for me right now, I'm like, okay, I really want to have these personal events. They're still important to me, but how can I make it work when I personally understand that right now I'm in a place where I say no to a lot of events. It's not that I don't want to be there. It's just that I can't. I'm in a time and place where I can't. And so I'm still trying to figure that out. And I mean, the book clubs were super, super fun. I couldn't be at the ones in New York, and they were amazing. The ones in LA, like we partnered with people who it was either their book or different influencers who chose a book, and they're great. And it is heartwarming. There are lots of heartwarming moments because it is such an intimate group. Like, it's not a crazy big group and it's interesting to me because a lot of people RSVP, but then like maybe 5% show up. It's like crazy, the drop off rate. And I'm still trying to figure that out. So I mean, I'm just being super, super honest. Like, we haven't figured it out. But it also, what's cool about it is the people that do come, you really get to have like intimate moments with them. And like with the book club, we shared a lot about ourselves and our own perspective. So then you really get to know people, which I really love that about it. And it's not about it's not about the numbers, right? It's about the quality and experience. So they're always really amazing. But I still feel like there's something to be said about a full room of people that are in the same mindset as you. Like the energy there is just really, really powerful, which is why I want it to be bigger. It's not necessarily like that numbers matter. It's just the vibe is also amazing when it gets to that as well.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for opening up about that as well.
Yeah.
And that you're still in this process of building. And I just hear that from what I've heard so far, you're super strong in your intuition. And if this is something that you're wanting to get behind and you just see it for the fullest, it's going to happen. If I were there, I'd be at every single event. If you have an example where it was guts versus logic and you went with your gut.
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like I have so many of those, or I've had several like really big moments like that. So, and that I don't even remember because I'm blanking, but I will share like this one crazy experience that I had, that looking back, everything was in alignment, but in that time it was like a trauma. Like I have like PTSD sometimes from it. Not anymore because I see it as such a beautiful, positive experience. But before I started the Fullest, I was in my early 20s and I just graduated from college, and I had just moved back to live with my dad down in Orange County in Laguna. And I was like, what am I doing right now? I'm at home. I'm dealing, and like my parents are separated, and so when I went off to college, I was just kind of like, I'm gonna go to Oregon. Like my boyfriend at the time was there, but I had wanted to stay in the state, but because I'm really close with my parents, but they were going through their divorce, and it was really hard on me, and I was just like, I need to go. I need to just like get out of here, and Oregon was a great place for me to do that. But I had just moved back, and I was like, what am I doing back here? Now I'm dealing with all the like drama that I didn't want to be dealing with. And I thought it'd be done by now, but obviously you can't run away from your thoughts and emotions. So then when I was back in the space that I had run away from, I had to deal with it. And so I was in a really, really low point because I felt like all my life I just worked up towards an education, and then once it was done, I felt like I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I was really just like not super like I would say I was depressed. I mean, it was a just time period where I was just really, really feeling super low and shitty. Sorry if I can't cuss, but that's how I felt.
Totally fine.
And I remember that these feelings of like having an eating disorder and when I was younger, all these things had like come back and they were like resurfacing. and I had to face and deal with them. But at the same time, I really felt like I just really want to know what I'm supposed to do with my life. And I was traveling. I went to Peru, I went to Machu Picchu, and I went to different places to kind of find answers and learn more about myself, because I intuitively knew I had to go in to understand what I needed to work on. But anyways, I was living with my dad. He was out of town a lot, and it just so happens like I was driving to LA a lot because I just love it there. And one day I just like was driving back from Erewhon, which is this awesome grocery store, and I was like,
know.
Literally, I was like, I need a sign. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm really sad. I just like broke down crying in my car. And I just remember asking for a sign. And I'm not religious, but I do believe in like a higher power, higher energy. So I just was like, what am I supposed to do? Why am I so sad? Like, help me. I can't help myself anymore. And literally like that week, so I was home, and luckily my dad was home that night, but that week and that night, someone tried breaking into my bedroom, and I was freaking out. I mean, I screamed bloody murder, like woke my dad up, and he was like, and it had happened actually once before that I thought so, but it was like, oh, my dad was like, that was the wind. But then this time it just so happened that no, it was actually like a person, because my dog like went outside and started wagging her tail. Like, she's not a guard dog at all. She gets super excited, and I can hear her like dog chain. I had like a doggy door outside my bedroom that led to a patio where this person was trying to get in. And I freaked out. I couldn't even be home during the day anymore. I mean, this person like ran away because I screamed so loud, and my dad was there luckily, and whatever, we went on with it night. But then I got to the point where I couldn't be in the house by myself even during the day. So that's when I went off to like this retreat down in San Diego. That was like a week-long wellness retreat or whatever, just so that I could get away and not think about it. And then I met people there, and just started me on the journey of starting the Fullest. And that literally was like this like fuel and this fire lit under my butt that was like, you need to just like go do this. But that was a pivotal moment in my life that started everything, and it was because of that person. And at the time I was like so scared, but looking back, I'm like, if that didn't happen, I would not be where I am today. And it's because of that sign. And I think that sometimes like things that are that aren't great can also be amazing coincidences. So I didn't take it as a sign right away at all, but once I started really like looking back more, I realized that was exactly what I needed at that time, and that's how things got going for me.
This was Fullest Self with Nikki Bostwick. Refer to the show notes to further get to know our guest. Share your thoughts and show us some love by subscribing or get in touch to be featured on the podcast. Released every other Monday. Thanks for lending us an ear. Passing on the mic.